Hello and welcome to our virtual launch party for the 2022 Bay Area Playwrights Festival. I'm Kayla Mashin Garvin. I use they and she pronouns. I'm a Bay Area playwright and a 2021 invited playwright for BAPF. I've long admired Playwrights Foundation and their dedication to centering playwrights within the work that they do. I had a really great time at last year's BAPF, and this year I returned as a season 45 play selection advisor. It's an honor to help announce the 5 playwrights who will be featured in this year's festival, as well as to honor our community at large. I want to take a moment here at the top to respectfully acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the unceded land of the Lenni Lenape people, and that the Playwrights Foundation's offices are located on the unceded land of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, who are the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We are guests here, and we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their ancestral homeland. I would love to encourage everyone who's currently watching to introduce themselves and to put the native lands that you're currently watching from in the chat. We'll be able to throw up some comments from the chat onto the main screen today, so please continue the conversation throughout the party today. Thank you so much for joining us today, from wherever you are. You'll get a chance to hear from our executive artistic director, our literary manager, and readers on our literary council. You who are joining us today are among the first to hear the play announcements and to hear from the playwrights themselves. Theater is a communal event, and even though we may be not able to be together in person today, we're really excited to virtually celebrate stories that demonstrate the power of human connection. We also are kicking off a $35,000 fundraising campaign this month to raise money to go directly to support our playwrights and artists involved in the festival. Let's go ahead and pull up our live display. All right, we've had a couple of folks who've donated so far through our in-person announcement event, but we would love your help to raise another $1,000 by the end of this evening to get us up to $7,500. To donate, you can click the link in the description, or you can text BAPF to 44321, the number on the screen here. A gift of any size will make a big impact. So thank you so much in advance for your generosity. All righty, now I would like to bring on Playwrights Foundation's Executive Artistic Director, Jessica Beza.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Kayla. I'm Jessica Beza, she, her, and I am joining from the traditional lands of the Ohlone people in San Francisco Bay Area. And thank you all for joining us as we kick off our 45th Bay Area Playwrights Festival. Our purpose is to support and empower playwrights' artistic growth and careers while championing their voices on a national level. And the Bay Area Playwrights Festival is our flagship program that has been around for almost half a decade, that has supported over 300 writers, some of them writing their first, maybe second plays, and many who have gone on to have successful writing careers. And at Playwrights Foundation, we envision a future where playwrights are radically centered as visionary leaders who transform the world through storytelling. And I believe that writers are healers of the soul. And I believe that they chart the course of culture. I mean, what we remember from years from now are often what are the stories that were written down. And playwrights and writers, they give voice to the desires and pains of humanity through their specific stories. In the selection process this year for the festival, there were many theatrically moving pieces that were really giving responses to these past 2 years, with many writers who were tackling themes of grief and isolation, as well as hope and healing. And it's always so difficult to narrow down to 5 writers out of hundreds of worthy applications. It's a community process, and I'm often watching the process, curious about what stories are going to resonate with our readers and staff throughout the process. And so we are so excited to share with you today, not only the 5 playwrights who are selected for the festival, but also to uplift many other talented writers who left an impact with us as well. So I'm going to invite Heather, our literary manager, to share a little bit about the selection process.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Heather Helinsky, literary manager, and I use she, her pronouns. And I want to acknowledge that I live on the lands of the Lenni Lenape, colonially known as Philadelphia. This has been my third year with Playwrights Foundation, and I believe it's so important to listen to the community of playwrights as we work towards better practices that express our values. We are determined to make our application and reading process as playwright-centered as possible. And y'all, it's been a long year with this pandemic uncertainty, but from the first script that applied on September 10th, 2021, which is Heidi Cray's Unwind, Hindsight is 2020, great title, that we respect and value every playwright who shares their scripts with us. This year, we continued to practice community-centered selection processes by having our 127 National Committee readers connect with each other to discuss the plays they read on Slack and Zoom. I'm also excited to share our new equitable practice of paying all of our readers per script. That's right. We aim to be transparent about our process, and we will continue to reflect on more ways we can create equity through the application process. I want to share with you a few quotes tonight from the readers themselves about the experience. New York-based playwright Maximilian Gale, he, him, said, "The sheer breadth of creativity of what's being written today is inspiring to me, both as a writer and lover of theater and narrative." And Chicago-based dramaturg, movement director, and choreographer Lauren Sheely, she, her, shared, "We aim for community-based reading practices where established and rising arts workers have the opportunity to collaborate on new play analysis." On our national committee this year, 63% of our readers identified as playwrights themselves, along with directors, dramaturgs, actors, designers, and teaching artists. So good to see some of you here. I know Ali Gonzalez is here. Who here is a reader? Please share in the chat. We'd love to raise your hand. Also, I see some future readers who have just signed up to read for BAPF 46. So good to see you here too. I also want to take a moment to say, how can we be sustainable by asking our playwrights to pay less for our application fees with our sliding scale rights that we've had for the past 2 years? And yet, both our National Committee and Bay Area Literary Council readers, we're paying them more for their time and energy. Ready to know? Yes, donations. So I'd also like to say, please make a donation today so we can pay the artists who help make the difficult decisions of what moves forward. We also continued our community-centered selection process with who read the semi-finalist and finalist plays with our local Bay Area Literary Council readers. As one of our values is our commitment to the local. And they were so passionate about the quality of plays this year. And we'll be meeting a few of them later as we announce our invited playwrights. So once again, I just want to thank our readers, the 127 National Committee readers, some of which are here today, our 17 Bay Area Literary Council readers, BAPF Play Selection Advisor, Kayla Machin-Garvin, and Literary Fellow David Pham. Thank you so much for your hard work and advocacy for new plays. So Kayla, as a playwright, what did you learn this year after your season last summer at BAMF about being the play selection advisor?
Oh my gosh, so much. Do we have time?
Yes.
Essentially, I was just so thrilled to be able to read these plays. I think that every play that I encountered really, as a playwright, I know what goes into writing these plays, and it was just such an honor to be able to read such a wide variety of work. As far as sort of big picture things that I saw this year reading through these plays, I got really excited when playwrights innovated through their work by playing with time, playing with language, or playing with form. We saw a lot of playwrights really digging in and finding new things this year. And I think that was just so exciting. I also really loved when playwrights would make use of theatricality in their work, making the work really specific to being in a theater with a live audience, as well as when playwrights broke rules. I think that there's just such a fun way that playwrights were really challenging what we think of as traditional narratives and what belongs on a stage. And I love to see it. So I have done some writing around what I have seen over the past year that I've been with BAPF, and the writing will be forthcoming on the BAPF blog, the Playwrights Foundation blog, in the coming weeks. And I'm really excited to share with you more about what really sang on the page this year.
Great. Now, if you haven't looked at them yet, you should also check out our full list of semi-finalists and finalists that we announced in mid-April. There's a lot of great playwrights work on that list. And if you are one of our semi-finalists or finalists joining us today, let's celebrate you. Let's invite you, introduce yourself, and lift up your play title in the chat. We want to honor your work today also. Is anyone here? I hope so. All right, well, in addition to our 5 festival playwrights, we're continuing a practice we started last year to shout out the honorable mention works that truly engaged and moved us, and we hope all of these writers, finalists, semi-finalists, and honorable mentions find future opportunities so quickly. And fun fact, one of last year's honorable mention writers applied again and is now an invited playwright this year. So that might narrow down who might it be. All right, Kayla, would you like to join me, since you were instrumental on our literary team? And again, thank you so much for working with us this year. It's been fun in the office.
Oh my gosh, it's been so fun. And yes, absolutely. I'm so excited about these plays. The honorable mention writers for BAPF 45 are Shwali Cook, who wrote Circle Hermaphroditos, a pleasant cup of tea with the first known social club for trans ladies in America, if they can keep the world at bay long enough to enjoy it.
Absolutely love the play. So funny.
A delight, a delight.
Next play is Finesia Farrell, She, Her, Black Girl Joy. This play is an evocative story, lyrically moving between memory, choreo poems, and a mystical plot. Black Girl Joy is a ritual play for Black girls and women to heal from intimate partner violence, loss of good girlhood, and the death of friends. Just so beautiful.
A gorgeous play, absolutely. Next up, we have from Amy Geisbers Van Wyk, They, Them, Morbid Obesity Surprise Intervention Birthday Party, an explosive genre-bending comedy exploring fat phobia, feminists, and kitchen sink family drama trauma that examines what it takes for one woman to actually truly love herself.
Yeah, Amy's such a great writer and characters that we need to see on our stages. All right, the next play is Carissa Attella, She, Her, Brown Face. Brown Face follows a group of Latin college students as they navigate their identities in the competitive world of spoken word poetry, also Bay Area writer. Yep.
I love this play as well. Next up, we have Daniel Holtzman, who uses all pronouns, with Berlindia. Berlindia is a mostly true family fairy tale full of longing, losing, and city-sized nightclubs. Berlindia is a story about learning to live with uncertainty in a world where places move and people become places. Congratulations to these 5 incredible honorable mention writers. You can go ahead and put your applause in the chat. And now it's time to announce our cohort of playwrights and the 5 plays for this summer's festival. I can't wait.
We are so honored to uplift this powerful cohort of 5 playwrights and their new plays about resilience, unbreakable bonds, honesty, love, and the life-changing moments that snap us into deep relationship with others. In a different way, each script illuminates the power of human connection. So, drum roll as we move into these. So our first playwright is a trans Egyptian American director and playwright. Her work focuses on the intersection of queer and Arab identities. Her plays have been produced with Uprising Theater, Amphibian Stage, Trans Theater Fest, Mirrorbox Theater, and the Women's Theater Festival. She was honored as the inaugural recipient of the SCDF Barbara Whitman Award in 2021 and we are so excited to announce Sharifah Yasmin's Close to Home.
In Close to Home by Sharifah Yasmin, a witty and resilient teenage trans femme, a rough-edged construction worker, and a gently protective Muslim immigrant explore whether second chances they seek may be found with one another in this fresh, deeply felt comedic drama about belonging.
All right, so our next playwright is a Jersey-born artist passionate about bilingual and cross-cultural storytelling. She recently was named on the Yale Drama Series shortlist for 2022, and her work has been developed with Theater Exile, the New Harmony Project, Teatro del Sol, and a recipient of the Chair Award from NYU's Department of Dramatic Writing in 2021. We're excited to announce Erysa and Riley's Saturday Morning Cartoons.
In Saturday Morning Cartoons by Erysa and Riley, divided on the choice of putting their abuela in a nursing home where social distancing forces them to stay outside her window, a millennial healthcare worker and her brother must confront the past to heal their shattered relationship in this imaginatively poetic family drama about 3 generations of unbreakable bonds.
So our third playwright is an actor, playwright, and entrepreneur of Egyptian descent from the Bay Area. Her playwriting work is in development at Civilians R&D Group, The Ground Floor, and she is writing a new historical drama for Audible. She recently was named a finalist for NNPN's Showcase of New Plays, and we are so excited to announce Denmo Ibrahim's An Arab Spring.
In An Arab Spring by Demro Ibrahim, she, her, when a brother and sister return to their childhood home in Fremont, California, the death of their estranged father sparks a personal revolution between brother and sister in this luminously honest story about grief and love.
All right, so our next playwright is a longtime social justice activist, editor, and teacher who lives in Oakland, California. She's published 8 award-winning books foregrounding lesbian heroism and received the 2018 Lynch Classic Award for her first novel from 1974. We will be supporting her first play that she has ever written in BAPF this summer, and we are so excited to announce Ilana Dykewoman's How to Let Your Lover Die.
In How to Let Your Lover Die by Ilana Dykewoman, when one half of an aging Jewish lesbian couple contracts dementia, the other must find her own way to let go in this silence-shattering story of caregiving, community, and honoring the requests of the dying.
All right, so for our last playwright to announce today, she writes both for plays and for TV. Her work often explores conflicts and politics within the African-American community, and her plays are grounded in reality with a touch of magical realism that plays with time and memory. She's been produced at Geffen Playhouse, Playwrights Arena, and has an upcoming world premiere at East West Players. And we are so excited to announce Inda Craig Galvan's A Jumping Off Point.
In A Jumping Off Point by Inda Craig Galvan, she, her, a superstar Black female writer could lose everything when a white male writer from her past claims ownership of her breakthrough script in this taut-biting comedy about representation, privilege, and who gets to tell what story.
Alrighty, we want to invite you to raise a glass or a mug with us as we toast our cohort of 5 playwrights, honorable mentions, and all of our playwrights who applied. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. Cheers.
Yay.
Cheers, and continue to put your virtual cheers into the chat as well, since we were not all, gathered together. But this year we celebrate the 45th Bay Area Playwrights Festival and its impactful legacy over the years with our most ambitious festival to date. So this summer, from July 29th to August 7th, we will continue to innovate with a hybrid festival combining in-person and virtual readings, while audiences will gather with us in the theater and also online. So for all of you out there, regardless of if you live in the Bay Area, you will be able to join us again to see these fabulous playwrights work. And tickets will go online. They're going to go on sale online on July 1st. You know, there have definitely been a lot of challenges over these past few years, but we have found that the innovation of moving the festival online has really helped us to discover some of the benefits of what the wider exposure can bring for our writers, as well as deepening our national community. A lot of you who are out there who haven't been able to join or engage with us until it went online. And so we are just dedicated to continuing to invest in wider access with a hybrid festival, bringing together in-person and online audiences for the first time. You know, we have also expanded our toolbox with online readings, and this year we gave our playwrights a choice to either gather their collaborators in person or online, depending on their specific needs. So that is leading us to produce 3 in-person readings and 2 virtual readings that will have watch parties in the theater as we gather the audiences in person. And the power of human connection is felt in each of these stories. It'll be felt in gathering in person, and it will continue to be felt in the power of human connection virtually. And we are continuing to invest in the people at the core of the festival by increasing wages to artists, staff, and paying our selection committee readers for the first time. And we're definitely going to need all of your support to make this a successful year. So either that may be attending, it might be donating, or spreading the word. The reason we've been so successful these past 2 years is because of our community's support, and each of you are a part of that community. And lastly, I want to highlight one of our sponsors and our very own streaming producers, Liana and Kira with Transcend Streaming. If anyone is looking for a virtual or hybrid streaming producer, I honestly think they are one of the best in the countries, as you can tell from this beautiful event that they are behind designing. So please hire them. And once again, I just appreciate each and every one of you and want to give a special shout out to folks who have donated today. Your gifts are essential to help us serve those playwrights the best we can. And if you haven't donated yet and would like to, you can text the number on the screen or click on the link in one of the comments. All right, I'm going to pass it back over to you, Kayla.
Thanks so much, Jessica. So in a moment, we'll be hearing from a couple of our readers on the Literary Council. But first, let's go back to the live display, and we're going to check on our $1,000 goal for today. All right. Ooh, look at this thermometer. Okay. So I want to go ahead and thank Markham Miller. Hi, Markham, and Dave Beza for helping us get to where we're at right now. We still need a little bit more to get to our goal, and a donation of any size, small or big, will help us get there. It's through your generous support that I was able to have such a great experience at last year's Bay Area Playwrights Festival. Last year, I participated with my play Tiger Beat. I've been submitting my plays to BAPF for so long, and I was so excited to finally get to participate with this play. I made such great friends, met great collaborators. I completed rewrites, and I got to share my play through rehearsal and readings. I really treasure my time at BAPF and the opportunities it's opened for me, including a recent reading and workshop of the play that I worked on last summer at Cornish College of the Arts. And most of all, I really treasure the people I got to work with through the festival. These are the kind of connections and community building that's made possible by Playwrights Foundation having your support. So I would love to go ahead and bring back Heather and invite 2 members from our Literary Council. I'm going to invite AJ and Quinn to join us to share their thoughts, as well as to give some insight onto what being on the committee is like. And afterwards, we'll go ahead and meet those playwrights. So thank you all so much for being here. It's great to see you. I'd love to have you introduce yourselves with your name, your pronouns, the native lands you're zooming in from, and I'd love for you to share a brief experience of what it was like being on the council. And we'll start with AJ and then hear from Quinn.
Hey, thank you so much. My name is AJ Mitchell. I go by they, them pronouns. I am currently calling in from the ancestral lands of the Bay Miwok people, which is now colonially called Walnut Creek. I am on my second year of work on the Playwrights Festival's Lit Council, and I love reading these plays. I typically read them over my winter break as I'm an educator. And it's always a nice time to just sit and read plays after play and listen to the voices, the new voices coming through and talking about the current zeitgeist. Also, I'm an educator, and so one of the things that I love doing is bringing new works and new voices to my students out here at Country Council School of Performing Arts. And so it is always exciting to see what they're talking about so I can bring those ideas to my students so that they can engage with them as well. It's so much fun. I always love reading the works, and yeah, glad to be here. Thank you, Quinn.
Hi, my name is Quinn Gilchrist. I use she, her pronouns. I am zooming in from the traditional land of the Ohlone people, colonially known as Alameda. This was my first year reading for the Playwrights Foundation. I was very fortunate enough to be on both the National Committee and the Literary Council. It was an incredible experience, and I'm just really excited to get to uplift all these new plays, and I'm really excited to get to share them with you all. Well, it was just a very great experience. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much. Yeah, no, I'm so excited to talk with you about these plays. So that's what we're about to jump into. We're going to talk about why we loved each play, and then we'll go ahead and meet each writer. I'm stoked. Okay, let's go ahead and start out by talking about A Jumping Off Point by Inda Craig Galvan.
Absolutely. I'm happy to jump in here to start us off with the conversation. I love this play so much. Inda's voice is contemporary with the voices of writers like Tracy Oliver, who was the showrunner of Harlem, which won a lot of acclaim for HBO, and Issa Rae, who Insecure we love. The dialogue is contemporary, it's fast, it's funny, and it reminds me of the vernacular of my sisters, my aunties, my cousins, how they talk to each other. So it really felt home to me. And also, one of the things that we talk about in my school with the young playwrights is that we're always having the conversation around the author's jumping off point and whether or not who gets to tell what story and what is universally held, what stories are universally held, and what stories are culturally held, and who's from that culture should speak about them. And so this play really connects to that cultural zeitgeist around the reclamation of cultural narratives, the questions surrounding cancellation versus restoration is in this play, the privilege and or some might say the caucasity of white mask privilege, as well as the position of Black film voices in positions of power. I really believe that Ketanji Brown Jackson can relate to this play and would probably act very well in it as well, as she is an actress, as well as our new Supreme Court Justice. So happy to have this play a part of our season this year.
AJ, so glad to be back in the room with you, and congratulations on the closing of your show with your students.
Thank you.
As a literary manager, I see a lot of writers talk in their applications as well as in different spaces that they're really concerned and unsure of where the line is and the uncertainty of what stories they have permission to tell. Where this play also got me, though, is it brought back a lot of stress of many years ago when I was in grad school. So many writers have to make that choice of deciding to go for their MFA or not as their career as a playwright. And then when they decide to go, which is a lot of stress, and they get there, there's this extra level of competitiveness of who deserves to be here and are they there for the right reasons. And I just love how morally messy this play is, which is just really, really great. This is a 3-character play. It's about the stress of that grad school experience coming into conflict with that white dude who just seems to be adrift in life and constantly getting rewarded, with a lot of unexpected moments and really great revelations along the way. There is blood spilled in this play, but it also had me laughing at moments. And I absolutely love the yoga best friend walking in on the situation.
Absolutely.
And I remember when I first shared reading this with Kayla, this play stirred up a lot of like complicated feelings in me in all the good ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can second that. I feel like this play is such a roller coaster, and the twists and turns it took me on were really illuminating. I think the characters are also strong, as AJ mentioned. The dialogue's so strong, and yeah, the moral complications at play here, I just think are really fascinating and at the heart of the work.
Right. Yeah, think about Jennifer Buck's Bad and Bougie that's going on right now, the controversy around that literary piece and how this fits right in that convention as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complex piece, but also really funny. And again, like AJ was saying, and Kayla, the dialogue is great. It's one of the things I mentioned in my analysis was how realistic and how dynamic the dialogue is, even in the moments of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all so much. Now I would love to introduce our playwright, Inda Craig Galvan of A Jumping Off Point. Hi, Inda. I would love to know where you're zooming in from. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to be here and to hear all these wonderful things. I'm zooming in from the unceded lands of the Massachusetts and Pawtucket people, colonially known as Boston. And I'm just thrilled to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'd love to know what's important to you about the story of your play.
Yeah, I think when people are hurt and historically hurt and don't have a voice, we react in certain ways. And this, as you all have been saying, this is about who has the right to tell a story. And in this play, I think that that hurt and that pain and that inability to get their own story through makes every single character in this play right and also wrong. And I like playing with that sort of moral ambiguity, and I don't believe in villains, at least in fiction, because there might be some real ones in real life, but I think making these characters, have them be really layered and complicated is important, and you're going to root for everybody and you're going to hate everybody at some point.
No, I love that. I think the sort of muddiness of what who we can really get behind in this play is something that was so fascinating to me when I was reading it. And I'm so excited to see how it plays out live in the space and online this summer. So this year we're focusing in our festival on the theme of the power of human connection. And I'm wondering how that shows up for you, either in your work or in your artistic practices.
Yeah, well, in this play in particular, there was a time and a place where people could have connected and didn't. And it's really about the things that stop them from connecting, the things that people do to each other that say, yeah, I don't want to hear what your story is. I don't want to know what your background is. I don't want to help you. And sometimes we're forced to do that. And we have to learn that if we don't listen and we don't understand the other person, then we're not going to move forward individually or together.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I love that that the core of that is about, listening and making that connection. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate your work, and I'm so excited to see your play this summer.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Inda. Now we would love to talk about How to Let Your Lover Die by Ilana Dykewoman.
Absolutely. I can start us off here as well. This play really struck me because of its casting, right? It's a text full of roles for queer femme folk over the age of 50, with really complicated and complex identities on the stage, which is really lovely to me. And it features softness of love, the support of community, the horror of disease, all beautifully explored in a world where no one is left alone at the end. You don't feel a sense of anyone being left alone. Even when they want to be left alone, right? Like, there's literally many parts of this play where characters want to be left alone, and they're like, nope, we're here, community is here to take care of you, you're not left alone. Also, it deals with the subject of assisted suicide through a lens of graciousness and humanness, and not through a lens of political debate. So you really get to see the human side of this really challenging conversation about how does one what rights do one have to their end of life decision making? And it feels like a very human conversation. But with that really deep and sad topic, there are moments of levity that are just extremely joyful in the play. And the love in the play is very palpable. And though the struggle is heartbreaking at the end, I never feel really hunkered down in the tragedy of the play. And every moment I feel uplifted by the community, helping this couple navigate the impossible, really. And a play that is about dying that also helps us contemplate living, which is really beautiful to me.
Oh, I love that, AJ. Yeah, this play I found to be really moving, and to echo what you were saying, I think about having our queer elder femmes on stage is just one of the many amazing offerings that this play has to give us, and to see them too in that state of community, in that state of belonging, really, I think is one of the real cores of this play. I think too, this play is so striking in the amount of connections that the characters both have to each other, and then the connections I felt as a reader that I was able to make with the script from my own life. And I thought that was one of the real things that shone for me about it.
Yeah, this play is a real journey. And also there's moments where the relationship between the two of them, they're on a road trip. And I just feel like that those road trip moments are a real metaphor for the struggle it is with end of life caregiving. Also, just like fun fact, as a literary manager that's been a high volume reader over the years, I do keep track record of what plays are, what characters are represented. And oftentimes it's only 11% of plays that have even one role for a woman over 40. So to have our writer who is an elder as in their 70s, as well as so many great roles for the community of women, is just really wonderful.
It's a beautiful play, and it feels like a very Bay Area centric story, but it has universal appeal. And I think that's something that's really important for a festival like this, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. As we heard in our bio from Alana, she's a real leader in the community as well. So let's go ahead and hear from her. She's not able to be with us live today, but we do have a pre-recorded interview with Alana Dykewoman, the playwright of How to Let Your... I'm here with Alana Dykewoman. Thanks so much for joining us today, Alana. Where are you zooming in from?
I'm zooming in from Ohlone Land, often known as Oakland, California.
Thanks so much.
I've lived here for about since 1983, a long time.
Great, great. What is important to you about the story of your play?
Well, my play, How to Let Your Lover Die, is about my partner, Susan, who died of Lewy body dementia about 5.5 years ago. And it's about her determination to exercise her right to die, and the problems of that, and the ways that our community supported and engaged with us during this process. I feel like it's a story that doesn't get told a lot, especially how old lesbians deal with each other in these kinds of end-of-life crises and ongoing health challenges. And I think it's an important story to be told. And the experience itself compelled me to write the play.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I found your writing and your rendering of that experience really powerful and really moving. So I'm so glad that you shared the play with the festival this year. We're focusing this year on the theme of the power of human connection, which is something I see really strongly in the community of your play. And I'm wondering how you might describe that showing up in your work or in your artistic practices.
Well, I've always been a writer, and I came up in the lesbian feminist movements of the 1970s. So it's been a long time being in community of various kinds. I was on the East Coast when I started out. And as I said, I've lived here in Oakland, Ohlone land since 1983. And since I've lived here, I've been in both writers groups and political groups. I helped do the disabled and senior access for the San Francisco Dyke March for 8 years with my partner, Susan. And support QuackMap, the Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project, pretty much since it started. And I feel like community is the crucial thing that makes a real difference in people's lives. Like without community, people tend to get very solipsistic or focused on their own personal agendas. And not that we shouldn't have our own personal agendas or ambitions, but that community supports us in them, and we support our community and other women and other communities in what needs to happen. And when we have strong communities, it also helps us reach across to other groups of people who are in communities and make coalition, because then we don't get tokenized. We feel like part of a much broader movement of people who are coming together to create social change and to project images that we don't normally see on the stage and screen. So that's been my motivation a lot in my writing over the years. Certainly I've written love poems and other kinds of more personal and individualized things, but I think that without human connection, we're just dust blowing around here. And with human connection, we have the possibility of creating many wonderful things together.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being with us here today. I'll see you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great to be able to talk with Alana and speak with her about her play. And now we would love to talk about An Arab Spring by Denmo Ibrahim.
I would love to start off this conversation, as this was a play I could relate to on many levels. My mother and her family immigrated from Lebanon around the same time as the family in this play did, and even then, my grandfather grew up in Egypt as well. So it's very personal, and I think it's such a great look at legacy and culture and sibling relationship. It touched me on a personal level and was so exciting to see my culture that I so closely identify with being represented in a script and soon to be on stage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Quinn. First, I'm really excited for this local Bay Area writer. Yes. Plays about siblings struggling with the loss and the new relationship they have to negotiate once a parent is going away just always like gets me in the heart, especially when one sibling has broken away and then has to come back and work through a lot of their family challenges and emotions. I also feel this play handles really well the cultural stresses between the older sibling who was born before the parents came to America and the younger daughter who is more Americanized and getting treated less than in this play. The theatricality of this play is really great as we break out of realism and see the father having his heart weighed in the afterlife. Those speeches that the father gives are so compelling. And the play asks, I love that the play asks, like, how do we honor a father that we don't really know? And I love how Denmo handles the balance of knowing and not knowing after a family member has passed. I'm actually afraid to say anymore because I just had a family funeral this week. So I'm not going to make it through the end of this event without crying if somebody else doesn't jump in and share what we love about this play.
I'm happy to relieve you, Heather. I also really love this play, and I think that I think it's really a testament to the writing, how specific and dynamic the relationships in this play are, and how even through the entire journey that the characters spend together, I always want to spend more time with them.
Absolutely. And I love that this play plays a lot with language and writes and how the characters speak outside of English. I think that American theater really needs to embrace the fact that we are America, full of diversity of languages. And I often hear this annoying trope that, when we do Shakespeare, it's like talking a different language, even though we're still speaking English. And we will not put a full Spanish show on the stage or full show spoken in Lebanese or in Egyptian Arabic, which this show asks of us. And I love challenging the audiences in that way, tuning their ears to hear languages that are not just English, and also languages that are not just from colonial powers in Europe, which it also makes me excited about this play.
Thank you so much, AJ. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and meet our playwright, Denmo Ibrahim. Denmo, it's so good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today. Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, I am zooming in from the unceded land of the coastal Miwok people, also known as Marin.
Thanks so much. And what's important to you about the story of your play?
You know, I was thinking about it. I think there are very few plays that look and explore the second generation experience. You know, kids who grew up in the States, whose parents are immigrants. And, you know, we don't have a lot of stories around the immigrant experience either. But I think there's a complexity around the second generation experience that I'm really excited by. And I'm also, I think there's something that happens between siblings, a kind of heartbreak and healing that's only possible in that dynamic. And, you know, it's something like a death that can sort of ignite a fresh new conversation that's possible. So, you know, for me, An Arab Spring is actually about the awakening that happens after death. It's sort of like death becomes a catalyst for change. And I think everyone relates to that death is actually not an end, which is very Egyptian. You know, the ancient Egyptians very much were sort of had this belief that death was a gateway to immortality. And so I think, you know, for me, I'm really looking at this very specific event in these two siblings' life as a turning point for them on a personal level, a sort of personal revolution and awakening for them. So I think that's the thing I'm so excited about in beginning to explore An Arab Spring.
Oh, I love that. And I love what you just said about the idea of death as a catalyst for change, particularly in familial relationships. I just think that's so interesting and really, really central in your play. So I'm curious about how the theme of this year, the power of human connection, might show up either in your play or in your artistic practices.
I mean, it's it's amazing that I think the theme human connection in the play is, with family, you don't, in a certain sense, blood family, you're not really choosing them. And so you have an event that sort of forces them to confront certain things. And I think, there is this question that comes around our ability to leave connection or return to it, our choice in connection. But with this play in particular, it asks a different question. When we connect, I think what are the myriad possibilities when it's not something that it is by choice? And I think that in particular is really powerful. I'll say that I think many of us are used to being able to decide where our yes or our no is. And there's a different kind of level of constraint that happens when certain events in one's life happen and you're sort of forced to reckon with something that you didn't want to face. So, for me, this play explores connection on a deeper kind of uncovering secrets or lies that we don't want to face. And I think there's a different kind of healing that can happen in that. And I'm also just so excited to be able to be in a rehearsal room with actors and have a live audience and kind of for us to, especially after so much grief and loss around the pandemic, for us to, I guess, give new language around grief, that it's, a way of moving through, and for us to be able to explore that in a real space, in real time, I think feels like a revitalization around human connection.
Thank you so much. I loved reading your play. I can't wait to laugh and cry through it this summer. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
Alrighty, as we move back into our next discussion, I want to remind everybody that please feel free to donate and support Playwrights Foundation, as well as the incredible work that's going to be shared this summer as part of the Bay Area Playwrights Festival. So next, we're going to go ahead and talk about Saturday Morning Cartoons by Erysa and Riley.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. I read this in the semi-finalist round, and it's stuck with me ever since. It feels relatable and familiar, but in a totally unique way. I love how it tackles the early days of the pandemic without it feeling hopeless and without that pandemic fatigue. I think, when we talked to AJ had mentioned language in theater, and this is another piece that really takes that aspect and enhances it and brings it into this piece and how language is part of our culture. It's authentic and just really stuck with me, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's another play that just wrecked me. But I think this is the play we all needed to read after 2+ years of COVID. There were so many plays that have been written during this time that were so good. But this one had universal agreement in our meetings of what it really had going for it, which was strong female characters, a story about the death of small businesses. Also, there's some student loan discussions in there, and also that powerful need to escape, and in this place, escape into cartoons. There's both the grief of a beloved sibling gone before their time, and while everyone is stressing out, caring for the grandmother. And I totally relate to who in the family is expected to carry all the caregiving, and when do they have time for self-care? And yet, like many plays that we've already discussed, there are these delicate moments of laughter on a knife's edge, and then we're back on this Jersey Shore amusement park roller coaster of difficult family dynamics. It's just so great. There's also two halves of this play, one where you realize that it's moving up to New Year's Eve, wave of 2019 going into 2020, and you're like, oh no, these characters are not going to do well with COVID, and because they're already grieving. And then also the second half of the play, which we're experiencing these family moments outside of their grandmother's window in the nursing home. And yes, as I said before, the language is so theatrically poetic and grounded at the same time, which is difficult to do.
Yes, and the playwright has a siblings towards at the end of the show. Towards the end of the show, she gives a direct stage direction that they hug each other, and a hug that lasts forever. And I read this play several months ago, 5 months ago now, I guess, and that idea of a hug that lasts forever really moved me. And I thought about the fact that we weren't able to hug during the pandemic, or we stayed in our homes, and that the hug you crave after death, after disappointments, and after grief weren't available to us, right? And so that the playwright gives us an opportunity to see a hug that lasts forever also allows us to be hugged in the moment as the reader. And I think that was a really beautiful image that's still with me to this day.
I love that, AJ. Yeah, this play, I don't know about never, but I didn't think that I wanted to see a play set in the pandemic. And I read this play and I was like, oh, I might have to rethink my stance on this, because it was done with such beauty and grace and opening up possibilities. I just think it was really masterfully done. And again, another play here with just like dynamic family relationships that I could watch forever. So I'm so excited right now to introduce our playwright, Erysa and Riley, and to have a conversation about Saturday morning cartoons. Hi, Erysa, good to see you. Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, good to see you as well. I am zooming in from the unceded lands of the Lenni Lenape, colonially known as New York. I'm sure her pronouns.
Thanks so much. What is important to you about the story of your play?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was centering the characters of caretakers. So often the things that I see in theater, if the caretaker is in it, it's like not a big character, or so many plays are written from the perspective of the people who don't stay and take care of the things that happen in a family. So I really wanted to center caretakers in this piece, and also particularly in a Latinx family, it is often the woman who becomes the caretaker for folks in the family, for older folks, in my humble opinion, everything a lot of times. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that everybody kind of helps in their own way. But it was really important for me to talk about how a lot of times Latinas end up taking care of their family members, and their stories don't often get told, and they often are misunderstood. And it's funny, you all were talking about the pandemic, and before I even set pen to paper, I was thinking, I want to tell this story of how difficult this situation is, but I also, I don't know that I want to see a pandemic play. And I gave myself like 3 hard and fast rules of, we will never use the word unprecedented. We will never talk about a politician. And the third one, I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin the ending of the play. But those were things that in thinking of what I wanted to center, it was also thinking of the things that I didn't want to center. I really wanted to focus on the familial relationships and the women whose stories I don't believe often get told.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that definitely resonates for me, this idea of the caretakers in our families, and especially oftentimes, as you were mentioning, the women who really are able to give so much of themselves. So I'm curious about, I think we can already hear, but I'm curious if you could articulate for us how this year's theme of the power of human connection either shows up in your work or in your artistic practice.
Yeah, I think this play in particular, it has themes of like these siblings that are coming together, that they've had this fracturing after one of their siblings is lost, and they're forced to come together. And this time that we couldn't physically be together, they're forced outside to physically be together, and kind of exploring how that also forces an emotional bringing together. You know, the social distancing actually caused a emotional reunion in a sense. So I think the play does explore that theme in that way. As an artist, anything I write, like we were speaking earlier, I'm Cuban and Irish, and so many times growing up, I noticed differences and similarities between these two cultures, and there were so many times I wondered, like, is this just something my family does, or do you all do this too? I had this like question. I was a really quiet person growing up, so I think a lot of times in my writing, it's that question of like, hey, do you all feel this way too? So I think it's, for me, writing is putting that question out into the world and seeing if other people respond to it, especially with this play during the pandemic, having this question of like, what is happening behind each individual Zoom box? Like, what are we all, you never know what somebody else is going through within their little square on the screen. So yeah, I think in this play, I was exploring that in kind of like a heightened way.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I'm mixed Irish and Chinese, and I can definitely relate to your questioning of like, is this just my family? Is this cultural? Is this
Right.
what's this about? And so
Yeah.
I think that's definitely present in your play, and was something that I think the specificity that you were able to give to that then sort of becomes universal in a way. So thank you so much for sharing your work with us. I can't wait to see your play this summer, and thanks for being here. I want to remind everyone that if you're on your phone, if you're on your computer, you can donate to support the festival this summer by texting BAPF to 44321. You can also click on the link in the comments. And with that, we're going to go ahead and talk about our next play, Close to Home by Sharifah Yasmin.
Yes, I'm happy to start us off here. Close to Home also read this play 4 months ago, and another play with the final images of the work really imprinted on my mind. I found myself wiping away tears of joy because of the possibilities of this mixed family that the play allows us to have, with mixed family as far as ethnicity, race, faith, gender identity. It leaves you something to root for. The play gives us soft kisses. It gives us slow dancing. It gives us the infectious cheers of teenagers. And it also allows us to hope in healing from past familial traumas, right? We often see plays about family trauma, but not plays that gives us opportunity to hope that there's healing that can come from that. And this play gives us that bit of hope. The theatricality of the literal home being built in front of us on the stage as the characters work to build their figurative homes of queer love just blew me away structurally. And I also always love a play that you can possibly have a climbable tree. I love plays where actors get to climb trees. I want to see actors climbing trees all the time, of course with hazard pay if need be. And this play allows us to see that, right? Moments of a climbing tree. And it also asks us maybe to bring the play outside of the structure of a brick and mortar theater. Maybe you bring this play outdoors. Maybe you bring it to a construction site. Maybe you bring it to the streets. And that always gives me theatrical joy when I'm reading a new work.
Yeah, absolutely, AJ. I think there's so much to love about this play, from its characters to the, I think, unexpected relationships that they form with each other that I found myself rooting for the whole time, to the really fun and snappy dialogue, and to the images that you were mentioning. I think there's so much joy to be found within this play, and I think we'll hear Sharifah speak a little bit on that in just a moment. This play was another play where I laughed, I cried, I felt everything under the sun, and felt really good after I read the play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's such a great, like, very joyful And especially when it's a topic that can be so tragic, that this playwright was able to find joy and, built this beautiful found family. It is such a beautiful piece, and I'm in a happy piece, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, we're really rooting for all these characters. And then it builds up to this beautiful prom imagery, Southern prom imagery at the end underneath the starlight and the tree. And I just found myself like envisioning it on stage so much. It's such a warm piece. And we're glad to have this writer here with us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So in a minute, oh yeah, go for it. In a minute, we'll meet Sharifah via video. But for right now, we're going to say goodbye to AJ, Quinn, and Heather. I've had such a good time talking about these plays with you. It's been such a joy to discuss these new works. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and being here with us today, and also for your thoughtful contributions throughout the whole selections process for these past months. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
All righty. So now that we've said bye to some of our literary council members, as well as Heather, we'll go ahead and meet our writer Sharifah via video. Hi, I'm so happy to welcome Sharifah Yasmin here to talk today about Close to Home. So Sharifah, where are you zooming in from today?
I am zooming in from Providence, Rhode Island, the land of the Narragansett people.
Thank you so much. And what's important to you about the story of your play?
I think what's important to me is I was really exploring what does it mean for work from marginalized individuals to be centered on trauma. It's something that I very much explore in my practice and my other plays, and I think it's important that we have the space in order to do that. But I think that theater industry sometimes has a history of prioritizing those stories over other stories of humanity from marginalized people. And I wanted to write a story about love and joy and hope, getting to see people who look like me experience love and joy and hope. Queer characters and Arab characters who we so often see in very tortured positions getting to have a happy ending. I think that was really my driving force for the story and what I wanted to accomplish with it.
Thank you so much. That's one of the things that I most loved about the work was how good it made me feel after I read it. This year, we're focusing on the theme of the power of human connection. And I'm wondering, how does that show up in your work or in your artistic practices?
Yeah, I think that goal is actually what drives me in my work. As a director, I'm consistently seeking plays that deal with complexity of humanity, that understand that characters aren't just good or evil, that we exist in a million things in between and outside of. And what does it mean to need someone? What does it mean to need connections? Because humans need connection. We need each other. We are social creatures. And so I think this play very much explores that. You have three characters who are all on the spectrum of that. You have Kaiser, who's so desperately seeking connection and community. You have Colt, who's at the other end of that, who is so desperately trying to self-isolate. And then you have Zara, who says one thing but does another. And over the course of the play, we see what it takes for these three people to build connection with each other. What does it mean to let go of fear? What does it mean to let go of past trauma, to truly connect with another person, and how difficult that actually is. And I think the characters spend an entire play reckoning with that question and if they're able to form those connections.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for your play to be a part of this year's festival, and we'll talk to you soon.
I am too, and can't wait to talk to y'all later.
All righty, we're now back live. Woohoo! Thanks so much, Sharifah, for that great conversation. Let's go ahead and check in on our fundraising. Wow, look at this thermometer. We have exceeded our initial $1,000 goal for today. We want to thank
Aiken, Alicia, Evren, Noel, Amy, and Ali for helping us get there. Thank you so much. We still have a ways to get to our $35,000 goal. So if you can, please keep the gifts and the generosity coming. Thank you so much. And tonight, it's been so great to talk with our playwrights, our literary council, and our staff here at Playwrights Foundation. I love new plays, and I love these plays that we're getting to put on, and I'm so excited to share them with you all this summer. This festival wouldn't happen without your support, so thank you so much to everyone who's donated tonight. We want to give a huge shout out to our streaming producer, Liana and Kira with Transcend Streaming. Yes, this is impeccable, as well as Playwrights Foundation staff, Megan Cohen. Megan, thank you so much for all that you do. We want to also thank everyone who's watching right now. We're so happy to be able to celebrate these playwrights as well as the power of human connection together. We're really excited for this summer, and we hope you are too. So please do stay engaged with us over these next months. You can join us for the live readings and events, both virtually and in person, from July 9th through August 7th. Share with us what you're looking forward to in the festival in the comment section here on Facebook. And let's go ahead and bring everybody back on to celebrate. We're all gonna have a great night. We're gonna dance it out. See you soon. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.